Stefan, thank you so much for joining the show again. I know today we wanted to talk about prep checks. And it's very interesting that you said that because that's actually what I did last night. I got kind of my own little journal. I go back and always kind of do inventory, but I was just sort of assessing based upon like my knowledge and where I think things are going. I'm like, okay, I think I could use a little bit more of, and I've determined I'm going to go out and I'm going to start storing some more macaroni noodles. So I went out last night and ordered some more oxygen absorber, Mylar bags, and that's what I'm doing this afternoon. I'm going to get out there and get some more pasta. But let's get the show rolling, Stefan. Where would you like to begin?
Well, that's excellent, Eric. I have a personal discipline with my preps, and that is every equinox or solstice, I will go through my preps and check everything. It's an easy way to remember to do it because it's either, we just had the spring equinox, and it's a good reminder that I should go over my preps and see what needs upgrading and what needs replacing, what needs maintenance. And especially, I do that now, 4 times a year I go through my preps. But because, look at what's going on in the world, maybe you should do it every month. But certainly every 3 months, go through your preps and check. So let me tell you what I went through and what I discovered. Now, the first thing I checked was my firearms. Now, I always oil my firearms before I put them back in the case and store them. And when I pulled out my firearms, I was horrified to discover that there was rust on the barrels on 2 of my firearms. And that was because my previous rental location was very damp and humid. And even though they were stored in their cases, and even though they had been oiled before I put them away, there was rust on the barrels. Now, not a lot of rust. It wasn't terrible. I could get rid of it with a little bit of very fine sandpaper and some oil. So I cleaned them up. But listen, goes to show that if you don't keep it, on top of things, even though you think they're stored in their cases, they should be good. But, the humidity is always a possibility. It gets into everything. So, anyways, I oiled up all my firearms, cleaned them all up, re-oiled them, and put them back in their cases. But if I hadn't done that and I'd left it, 6 months or something, then that rust could have caused those firearms to malfunction, and then that's not something you want to do when suddenly SHTF to suddenly go, oh my God, my guns don't work, I better start cleaning them.
Right? Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. That's another area that I have to dive into next is with guns and ammo. But in terms of like on the food side of things, and if you have more to say there, Stefan, by all means, jump
Oh
back
yes,
in.
of course I got
Sure.
more to
Yeah.
say on the food. So now go through your food supplies.
Mhm.
I went through my food supplies, and I'm always adding to it, so I'm never down anything, right? So every week. Well, last week I bought at Walmart there was 20-pound bags of rice for sale for $8 a bag. So I bought about 40 pounds, almost 50 pounds worth of rice for less than $20. That's a good investment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm always adding to the food supplies, anyways. I found some canned pate, liver pate. It's good. Liver's good protein and a lot of vitamins in there.
Good for you. Yeah.
Yeah, good for you. So I bought a few cans of liver pate. I bought a few cans. But then I also replace what I might have taken from my food supplies. So what you want to do anyways, and especially if you've got, like say a year's supply worth of food, you want to eat the stuff that's getting old. So this is the time to pull out from the back of the shelf or wherever you store it. I try to store mine in order of when I bought it, so I know the stuff that's old is further back in the shelf and the newer stuff is up front. So I take the stuff in the back of the shelf, and I'll use that up. I can use this. For example, I used up 2 cans of beef gravy because I wanted to make my own poutine, which is a French-Canadian dish. French fries, melted cheese, and brown gravy.
There you go. Sounds good to me. Yeah. Sounds a little on the unhealthy side, but hey, if it's the zombie apocalypse is about to start, We might as well have at it a little bit, right? Might as
Oh
well
yeah,
do
if it's the zombie apocalypse, that's what you want: fat, grease, and starch.
That's it, man. Now, in regards to food management, this is very very interesting because back when I was sort of working in the world on the retail side of things, I kind of look back on how God was sort of preparing me for this day, where because I'm doing it right now, I'm having to have to do inventory management right now with everything, but specifically food, and that's actually what I did in my last sort of business job was over the perishable side of things with a very upscale. The company was called Harris Teeter down in the southeast, very upscale, like grocery kind of chain. And we obviously had to keep track of that stuff. So first in, first out, FIFO, I gotta imagine, is very very important. Again, I go back through typically, yeah, about I'm gonna say every quarter, maybe a little bit less, and keep track of all the expiration dates. And I guess I wanted you to talk about that for a minute. But what's sort of your golden rule or rule of thumb when it comes to canned goods and expiration dates? Like right now, I've got a bunch of canned fruit that we're looking at, being expired over the next like 3 to 6 months. But I've talked with some other preppers, and they're like, I mean, essentially, it could be good for years later down the road. I mean, probably won't have the same kind of vitamins or whatnot in it. But what's sort of your golden rule when it comes to canned goods and expiration dates?
Well, completely ignore the expiration dates because they don't mean anything. From my research, I have learned that canned foods are good for 10 years.
Hmm.
10 years. Maybe 20 or 30 years. It depends. I mean, that's the whole purpose of canning, was to preserve this stuff for a very long time.
Right.
And, with modern technology and ways of canning food, it's probably good for a long time. Now, there's certain types of food that don't keep as well, such as tomato paste. I have tomato paste so I can make spaghetti sauce, but tomato paste is very acidic, and it will tend to eat through the can.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
Eat through the can sooner. So the shelf life of, say, tomato paste won't be as long as, say, the shelf life of flake tuna packed in oil. Flake tuna and oil probably last you 20 years. But
What about tomato sauce though? I got a bunch of tomato sauce. Is that a little bit less concernable than tomato paste or?
well, tomato sauce would be the same. But I have
Yeah. Hmm.
spaghetti sauce, but they're in jars, so then I'm not worried.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you get the. I used to get like $2 for a big jar of garlic spaghetti sauce. It's good. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Got
when in doubt, don't eat it. Now, the only thing you need to, like, if you open it up, let's say, and again, we should be cycling through this, and I recommend. I'm old school. I put everything down on paper, pen, and paper. Actually, I prefer pencil. So I have a notepad. I have a notepad and a pencil in my radio kit because write down frequencies and notes. I have a notepad and pencil in my bug out bag so I can take notes for myself or leave notes behind and instructions. So also have a notepad in your pantry or your food stores, and keep track of or label the foods by month or by year. I tend to just label it by year. So this
Yeah,
is
me
all the
too.
yeah.
Hmm.
Go ahead.
No, I do the same exact thing by year. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, so I have a little paper tag on the shelf: 2020, 2019, 2018, and that means all the food on that shelf that's when I bought it. So I know when I'm starting to get close to the best buy date. And again, it's good for 10 years, but let's stay on the safe side. Let's
Sure.
recycle this through every 5 years, right?
Hmm.
Or every 2 years, or every 1 year. And be on the real safe side. So eat the stuff that's labeled 2020, and
Right before, yeah, the newer dates. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, well, eat the stuff that's, well, if you're going back that far, but eat the oldest stuff first,
Hmm.
and then replace it, right? And you should be replacing your food stores anyways. Right now, even if you've got, say, 6 months, a year supply of food, keep adding to it because we know what's coming: the food shortages,
Yeah.
the supply chain interruptions, and the classical communist strategy of starving the population to death. So you can't have enough food. I'm reminded of a blog I read about a survivalist in Venezuela and how bad it was there. I mean, people are eating their dogs and cats.
Oh,
And he said that there were people that were, saw this coming and they were prepped. And they had a year's supply of food stored up. But this went on for 2, 3 years. So,
yeah, right. Huh.
so, okay, you're good for the first year, but starting year 2, you are starting to starve now too.
Uh-huh.
And Fluffy is looking pretty juicy to you.
Right, yeah, you got to have your processes in place. That's actually the next area I wanted to go into is as a result of what's happening there with Russia and Ukraine. Obviously, well, even Ukraine itself is banning certain exports. Russia, obviously, with the fertilizer situation and the oil situation. There was one top CEO of a major grocery chain here in the northeast of the United States, and he said even by the end of next month, he said on all prices or all goods, look for a 20 to 25% increase. And my goodness, Stefan, I went in the other day and I still collect a little bit of meat. Like you said, I'll kind of add to it slowly by surely now, not in big chunks, but it went from like an average can of the chicken and turkey of Keystone, which is pretty popular at Walmart. It went from 650 to it's like 880 something right now. And you tack on another 20% to that. I mean, you're talking over $10. So we're almost hitting what is that, 40 something percent price increase in less than a year already on that product alone. It's crazy.
Yeah, and which is another reason to stockpile food because even if SHT doesn't hit the fan, you're saving money because if you eat this food a year from now, you're saving 60-70% of your grocery budget. So food number one. Now the second thing I go through is the batteries.
Yes.
What I try to do is I like to have uniformity among batteries. I don't want to have 9-volt and AA and AAA and all these NiCads and everything. Everything I have runs on AA batteries. My emergency radio, my walkie-talkies, my flashlight, and my ham radio. Everything works on AA batteries, and I always buy rechargeable batteries. I don't trust just regular batteries because they're good for 3-4 days, and then you throw them in the garbage. At least with rechargeable batteries, if you have your solar panels set up, or if you have a gas generator, at least you can recharge your batteries and keep your flashlights and radios and things like that working. So on the quarters, I take out all my rechargeable batteries and I recharge them. I stick them into the wall socket, and I've got like 30 batteries. So it's a whole day thing. I stick them in there, wait for the light to turn green, and then I put in the next batch of batteries. So recharge your batteries now so that you always have fully charged batteries when SHT hits the fan.
Now, with batteries in general, is it true that they normally hold about 10 years? And I'm talking about at least some of the more, I don't know if you want to call them upper echelon ones.
Expensive ones?
Yeah, the expensive ones. I mean, is that true? About give or take like 10 years or?
I would doubt it. From my experience, they don't last that long. No, maybe 5 years. And there's all kinds of things that can go wrong with them. For example, I've read that you shouldn't store them fully charged because that will weaken their ability to recharge. I don't know how true that is. Yeah, no, so don't fully charge your batteries. Well, I don't know about that. I'm going to recharge them every 3 months, okay? And they will go down. You can tell, if I don't use them, and I charged them, last December 21st, they're still going to be 3/4 now, so they still lose their charge. Batteries, I don't like batteries, Eric, between you and me. That's the whole problem with the whole green energy and everything like that, and electric cars. It's the batteries. They're just not efficient, and they're unpredictable and unreliable. They could explode, they could drain, they could refuse to recharge. I've read lots of accounts where people buy rechargeable batteries and they can't recharge them. So get extra batteries. It's a good time if you have an extra few bucks, buy some extra batteries, but at least get everything recharged now. Also, let's go into medical. Go through your medical kit.
Yeah.
Make sure you got enough Tylenol and isopropyl and acetylsalicylic acid and vitamin C, and all these things. And then, Benadryl, and well, what I did, I recently added some more antibiotics to my stockpile, and I just called my doctor friend, Dr. Ron Cap in Santa Barbara. I said, okay, I got enough amoxicillin. What's the next best antibiotic in case amoxicillin doesn't work?
Right. Yeah.
And he writes me back. He says, "What the hell are you doing over there?" I said, "Oh, and also, when doing a heart bypass surgery, should you take an artery from the femoral artery or from the radial artery?" I was, I was like I'm doing open heart surgery. It's a little joke between me and Dr. Ron.
Right. I gotcha.
He says, "What the hell are
Yeah.
you doing over there?" I said, "I'm sewing back together cadaver parts. Now all I need is a severe electrical storm."
Yeah, no, it's a good point that you mentioned electrical storm. I actually just purchased some like Faraday bags from some pretty reputable
Nice.
company, starting to put some electronics in there. I mean, it is a little bit more on the pricier side. I have yet to find though, a blanket type of thing. I keep finding bags or whatnot, but I wonder if there's like sort of like a blanket that you can kind of like cover stuff under. I'm
You
not
know,
sure.
I was thinking of that too, Eric. I was thinking I need to start a sideline business, manufacturing and selling something like that. What you need is a woven brass mesh. So it looks like chainmail armor, and it will act as a Faraday cage, and it's flexible. It's like chainmail almost, right? So it's flexible, and you can wear that under your coat. Nobody needs to know. And you can put some underneath a baseball cap or a toque or something like that. No one needs to know. And you can build cages with it so that you can protect your electronics. Well, listen, your electronics should be stored in a steel box or a tin box anyways, with cardboard insulation all around out. And that's probably your cheapest and easiest way to protect your electronics, like your radios and your iPad, whatever. I would keep them in a Faraday cage, especially now. You know, who knows what's going to happen. I think we're okay here in North America, but you know, the way that they're pushing for war, all these lunatics there in D.C. Oh,
Yeah.
frothing at the mouth. Oh, let's bomb them. Let's nuke them. Are you
Yeah.
you know, these people are insane. But
Yeah. I don't know, buddy.
we've known that for a long time. So
Hmm.
meds, I got some extra antibiotics, and I go through my medical kit. Okay. Another thing is um, your budget. Now, I budget my money very tightly. You know, I know how much comes in. I know what I can spend. I know what my expenses are. Now, if you have, at the end of the month, you paid all your bills, and you know, you've got all your groceries in to last you till the next paycheck. If you have an extra $100, now think about, what can I add to my preps? I know you do it. I do it too. You sit here and you go, well, I'm pretty good. You know, I got the food, I got the firearms, I got the medical, I got all that stuff. I'm doing pretty good. But is there something else I might need? And again, this is the time, you know, every
Sure.
quarter, and check your budget. You have an extra $50, an extra $100. Now, I had an extra $50 in the form of credit card royalty points or something like that. I don't know. I don't know about that stuff. They sent me an email. Oh, you can cash in your points for a gift card. I went, oh, okay.
All right.
So I got a $50 Amazon gift card. So I'm thinking, okay, now what do I need in terms to improve my preps? Now I already have two ways of cooking food, but because I bought that still, and you know, I would prefer to have like a kind of a steady, solid heat source to run the still to purify water or to make moonshine. I think we talked about that last time, right? My
I think
still,
so. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So I thought, well, you know what I need? I need a propane stove. So I went on Amazon with my $50 gift card, and sure enough, for $30, I got a propane stove.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with the $20 left over, I got 3 cans of propane. So okay, now I've got three different ways of cooking food. I got my alcohol stove. I've got my hibachi, my barbecue, and now I've got propane a stove, which is very efficient and works very fast. So
Yeah.
now's the time, folks. Go through your stuff. Is there something? If you have an extra $100, are you good on all the areas? Well, then get some extra rechargeable batteries, or like I did the other day, get an extra 50 pounds of rice. Can't hurt.
Yep. If I can jump in
Yeah, go
one
ahead.
second, yeah, just with what I got going on. Again, you want to think about the different ways, you know what I mean, that you can cook. I just picked up this really cool book. It's like typically found on the top 100 items to have for prepping. I found it on different websites. It's like different ways to cook during the zombie apocalypse or something like that. And so I've diversified there. I've got a wood stove in the house to which I could, cook, what are those the cast iron pots you can cook
Yeah.
that way. I recently just got a couple crock pots. You can kind of slow cook that way. I've got a fire pit out in the backyard. I've got that Ninja thing, although it's electronic. As long as you would have like a backup power source like an EcoFlow, you could use that. I mean, I hate to even say it too, but listen, I'm admitting it, Stefan. I do have a microwave. I know it's really bad. Probably nukes all the essentials out of it, but at least like, hey, if you that would be like a last resort kind of thing. But what my point is, like, have different ways, and you mentioned like propane too. Just have different ways, the ability to cook. Did you kind of gather yourself there, in terms of your thoughts? Because I've got some more questions here before we let you go.
Yeah, no, exactly what you said is, and we talked about this just before we started the show, and that is, you have to have redundancy in all your plans. So, do I have a way to heat the house? Okay, good. Do I have a second way to heat the house? Well, then look into that. Do I have a way to cook food? Yeah, I've got my alcohol stove. I got candles. I can build a cooking fire on the balcony.
All right.
Is that ideal? Can I do something better than that? Yeah, now I got my propane stove. Works very good. So try to, like, once you've got all your preps, double up on it. Find alternative ways. Do I have a way to recharge my batteries? Yeah, but now I've got a solar panel, so I can do it. I have two
Yes.
ways now to recharge my batteries. So now's the time to think about doubling up. Redundancy is the key
Yes.
because you can't rely on one thing alone
All
to,
right.
right? Because
I,
yeah, go ahead.
I get made fun of, Stefan, a lot, even by some family members, and they of course like prep too, but they kind of like will take a little shot at me. Like when I go out and I buy something, knowing that I might not have the capability, like let's say a year from now, depending on how this beast system, how fast it moves, like I might not even be able to purchase something on Amazon if they require like QR codes and whatever else. Like I'm not doing that. I'm not doing the vaccines or any of that crap. I might not have the ability to get into Walmart. So I always buy in multiples. Like the other day we went out, we were talking about off air here with the solar powered mini house that I'm trying to get on the backyard. My dad said we need to get like a voltmeter or something like that, to kind of check how much is in it. I bought like 3 of those things. I didn't just buy one. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I'm always buying multiples of stuff, thinking like, hey, if I forget, maybe I forget about it. You know what I mean? And I don't have that down the road. I don't know. That's just me, but I understand what you're saying, redundancy or buying multiples. But yeah, because this is going to be this isn't a 30, 60, 90 day crisis here, folks. This is like, this is going to be a huge transition for humanity, I think. And I think Stefan would agree with that statement.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead. Did you want to jump in there? I've got maybe 1 or 2 more questions, and we got to close out here. But
Well, that's really all I've got. Go over your stuff. Make sure it's all in good order. It's up to date.
Mhm.
It's recharged. It's re-cleaned. It's re-oiled. It's re-greased. You've added to your food. You've taken the food that you could use now but added more to it, and you've gone through your whole preparation scheme. And well, can we double up on something? Can we?
yeah,
Right? Then now's the time. Let's double up on it because again, we're going to have to survive this for a year, 2 years, probably 3 years. Whatever's coming, it's going to be brutal for 3 years, and at the end of that 3 years, there's not going to be too many people left.
yeah. Now, in regards to the springtime for gardening, again, those who are going to kind of go the seed route, that's another way. Obviously, we can get food. Although, who knows with how bad the New World Order is going to be in regards to the laws. I've seen laws in times past where they've indicated you can't even, plant on your own, your own land or whatnot. I'm sure it's going to get that bad. Even in California, they're saying that you can't even use a generator. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. Like gas generators have been banned. I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, who's going to follow that law? Like, give me a break.
Yeah.
But my point is, for the springtime upcoming, I don't know, just some points, some considerations. How do we factor in potential grand solar minimum too? Is it going to be cooler, you think, than in years past? Are we going to have to kind of prepare for that?
Well, eventually the cooling is going to become dominant, but my personal hunch is this is going to be a hot summer. I just have a
Okay.
feeling about it. The weather here in Canada is now suddenly abnormally warm for this time of year. We're, well above freezing. And now there's a couple of days coming up where it's supposed to drop below freezing again. But we've had like 2 weeks of really warm weather. So uh,
Mhm.
for this time of year, that's kind of unusual. And I've heard the same. What did I hear recently? That even the North Pole is like 30 degrees warmer than it normally is. So I'm thinking we're going to have a hot, hot summer. I'm thinking now already, like maybe I should get an air conditioner for the apartment because the summers here get, July and August,
Sure.
brutal, hot,
Yeah.
humid. It's just miserable. So think about ways of cooling your home. There's all kinds of devices out there now, but I would plan on that. I already bought fans, you know,
Good. Hmm.
to cool me down. Now's the time to start planting the seeds indoors, getting them ready to sprout in your home garden, your home greenhouse. You can plant a lot of different seeds. We used to plant them in eggshells. I don't know if you remember that. Uh,
I remember hearing that. Yeah, not I mean from some family members actually. Now that I think about it, yeah,
yeah, we
back in
used
the
to take the eggshells and you put 2 tablespoons of earth in there, and you drop your seed in there and water it, and you keep the eggshells in the cartons so you can grow 12 plants at a time, and you have half a dozen cartons, so you've got 60 plants on the grow already. And then once the weather outside is warm enough and you're past the frost risk, then you just plant the eggshells straight into the ground, cover it up with a little bit of dirt, and you're ready to start your garden. So that's one thing we used to do when we were kids.
Yeah, cool. Now we're just about out of time, my good friend. But before we let you go, let's do a little shameless self promotion time. What can we help you promote this month?
Well, it's the same thing I promote every month, and that's my survival library. If you don't have it already, get it now. But once the internet goes down, you won't be able to access this information. And this is life-saving information. That's why it's all in PDF. You can download the whole library, stick it on a flash drive, which is what I recommend. Don't keep it on your computer just in case the authorities wish to search your computer, because some of the titles of the books would cause
Yeah,
alarm among authorities, right? Like
yeah.
how to improvise weapons, escape and evade tactics, and marine training manuals.
All right. Yeah.
So you don't want the local authorities to know you're reading those books. So you store it on a flash drive, and then we've already been over, the rechargeable batteries and the solar panels and all that. And get like a Kindle reader or an iPad or something like that, a small electronic device that runs on like 3.7 volts, because that's easy to recharge. Laptops, you're going to need 12, 17 volts, which is going to be hard to get out of a 5-watt solar panel. But get a Kindle reader, and you can recharge that using your solar panels, or you can recharge it using your emergency radio, the ones with the hand crank. You can crank it up and recharge your Kindle reader, and that way, these books you will always have access to it, even if the power goes out. Plug the flash drive into your reader. You've got over, I forget, I've got over 200 books now on there, um, on every subject, and that way you can always access that information. My worry is that when the power goes out, you won't know anything. That's why you want the ham radio, so you can listen into world news or a police scanner, um, and certainly the emergency radio, which is pretty useless but better than nothing, and even the walkie-talkies. They're pretty useless for the most part, but some ham radio operators will monitor channel 3, so you might be able to, connect with a ham radio operator. Anyways, but the key is keep this stuff charged. That's why I said, I keep everything AA batteries. I got the chargers, and I have two ways of charging those batteries, so that way I can always have access to an entire library of information. So whatever it is, planting season, okay, there's 15 books on how to grow food in your backyard or on your balcony or in your house or in your basement. Hydroponics, raised bed gardening, scrounging for edible foods in the forest or in the field or in the city. People scrounge food in the city. It's surprising. Like, yeah, in California, you walk down the street, there's lots of trees that have apples and pears and peaches, that are growing over the fence, and you can grab a dozen and nobody would notice it. So the survival library, it's on my website, chinastrategies.com. This is an insurance policy so that you will always have the information you need. But then you got to get the other stuff. You got to get the flash drive, and you got to get like a little Kindle reader or an iPad, or you can read it on your phone, and you can recharge your phone using the aforementioned methods.
All right. Good stuff, Stefan. Appreciate the time. And folks, again, tradcatnight.org. Do join us where we have some of the top preppers and survivalists. I've re-signed Joe Tetai from Dual Survivor back on the show. We got Tim Kennedy, who has been seen on Joe Rogan and also InfoWars, too. He's going to be joining us, I think, at some point next month. I'm working with his PR person as we speak. So, folks, until next time, my good friends, stay safe and God bless.